I hope everyone's having a very blessed Sabbath. I am back at my home. I spent about 10 days at my parents' place. And in my last two videos that I've been observing Sabbath in a Muslim household. So I'm going to continue on my testimony where I left off and go from there on how I have been approached by God, our Yeshua, for Seventh-day Adventists. Now, in my last video, I mentioned that I came across a boy that is within the family when I was 20 through Facebook. And we pretty much came from the same family, so obviously he was Muslim, and we shared the same cultural aspects. We knew each other from a family wise. I didn't really know him at first, so but he was Bengali, I was still Bengali, right? And yeah, we basically bonded on the more common aspects of our life and our family itself. What I liked about him was more of how genuine he was, how he had shared his difficult path, and from his obstacles that he was experiencing with his parents too. He was I don't know now because I'm not in touch with him. You'll know why in a bit. But he was the only child, and I come from I come from with a family where I'm the oldest daughter, and I come with three younger brothers, pretty much. So, come from a larger family as opposed to him. And I guess we bonded over little things. He's a few years older than me, just a couple, and we talked about our education, our lifestyle, and we just bonded. And I like that the genuineness from him, and of course our family, religion, right, and cultural together was really what bonded. He was looking for a woman to get married, and he wanted someone, of course, that is Bengali, but also Muslim, right? um, and then of course with him, he's not very religious. The only thing that he would do is that every Fridays, Muslim men would go for a Friday prayer, and of course fast for like a fast during the month of Ramadan. And that was pretty much it. He wasn't very, again, praying for 5 times, reading the Quran, you know, talking about Islam or spreading the word about Islam. So it was more of a very surface level that he was practicing. And I mentioned I was like that too, right? I would also observe Ramadan, pray when I can. I didn't pray five times a day. I wasn't extremely religious. I didn't cover my head or wear a niqab or anything like that. My mom wasn't like that too. But it's a very rooted that, and they look at it that if you're Muslim, that's great. You're one of us. If you're not, you're an infidel, right? That's kind of the you can say that cultural root that we have. Even when I was growing up, I mentioned earlier that my parents, my mom especially, she's always said that always be closer to your Muslim friends. um, you know Christians, Jews, they're all considered infidels. My mom's perspective at the time, right, as I was growing up. Not associate with them, not go to field trips with them, or be in projects with them. uh, which in reality it's not our choice, right? If you're Especially when your children is receiving education outside of Bangladesh, right, in different countries, there's no discrimination or any type of cultural rift between different cultures, right? So, but yes, so for 3 months, going back to my testimony here, so for 3 months, him and myself, we were getting very close, and close as in like we've been talking very closely through Facebook Messenger at the time. I never really met him in person, knew him very well, But and then eventually we started talking over the phone. I downloaded WhatsApp. He already had WhatsApp, and we just had conversations. It was night for him over there. It was day for me. But during those 3 months, I had to keep it hidden from my parents, and it's because I knew deep inside that they're not going to be happy with the fact that I actually like someone. See, I'm 20. I was 20 then, and I already knew, and I've seen heard it from passing from my mom too, that don't be close to a guy, right? It's not your time, it's not your age. Like, we will choose a man for you. We will arrange that marriage for you, a good guy. And so I spoke with my ex at the time, in in privacy, right? Even when I was going to university, I will, during my lunchtime, we will be talking, and but then when we got home, I would not be talking. I had my own phone. Of course, my parents entrusted me in the event that there was an emergency, or use it for work, for school, not work, but school. But yes, that was pretty much the extent of having a phone. So eventually, it got to the point where my mom did find out after 3 months. Long story short, um, and she was not happy when she found out that who it was. She told my dad, of course. My dad, this was the first time I saw my dad, how disappointed he was that I was studying and going to get into the medical field, and then all of a sudden I'm associated with a guy that they didn't choose. But on top of that, it was not a good guy, right? Even the fact that he's in the family, he's a Muslim and Bengali. This is the first time that I see that they disapproved it, not on those bases, but the fact that, my ex did not have a proper, very good, stable job, and is pretty much, you know, rotting. Like, that's the word that they use at the time, like rotting in Bangladesh, right? And he's trying to use me to by getting married and bringing him over to Canada, right? So he didn't really love me. That was what my parents were trying to explain to me, is that he's just basically using me. And for me, at that age, right, where I felt that I've been suppressed, right? There's many things that I couldn't do, or I always see that, well, how come my friends can do this and I can't do it? There is that rebellious strike that came into me, right? Because while my parents are saying this, my ex is saying this, like, but you know, what matters at the end of the day is that I'm Muslim, right? It shouldn't even matter. And if I come to Canada, I'm gonna make sure that I keep you happy, and I will be working and basically providing for us. I will provide for our family, right? He was saying the right things, right? A lot of right things at the time, that it just, you can say, it melted my heart. And I'm like, no, I can't let go of him. I can't let go of him. Meanwhile, my parents are like, let him go. He's not a good boy. He's not a good guy at all. So, it's got to that point where I I saw my parents as the bad guys. For the first time ever, I saw my parents as the bad guys. Yes, I've always questioned the things that they do, or maybe my mom's trying to be protective, my dad too. My dad pretty much just listened to my mom. Whatever my mom said, he would just agree to it, right? He didn't like confrontation, right? My dad just simply agreed with my mom and said that, no, he's not a good boy. And mind you, my ex comes from my dad's side, right? And my dad explained to me that that whole side of that family is not good. They they get married, then they divorce, they get another woman, or they're not very good. See the whole thing, they're not very good Muslims. There's always a controversy, drama with them. They beat their women, supposedly. I don't know about that, but there was a lot of stuff that negative stuff that they have said about my ex and his family. But then I talked to him, and I'm like, I've said these things. I've actually approached my ex and said, like, has this happened to your uncle? Has this happened to your dad? Has this happened? Like, my dad is telling me that your dad did this. My dad told me that your youngest uncle did that, right? Your mom did this, right? And of course, my ex kept saying that, like, well, every family has their flaws, right? And, um, we're not the ideal family here, but we own it up. We're being truthful here. We're not suppressing our women. We're not, hurting our wives or our daughters in any way, right? So, I trusted the genuine, again, him being honest, and I'm like, there's a completely big misconception about his family, and I'm like, I have to, like, tell my mom and dad that this is not true, what you're hearing about him and his family. But despite me explaining it to them and telling them, they were not happy with it. You know, even even when my mom found out about it, or even the times that I tried to approach, um, there have been moments where um, she would beat me up, right? The method that they would use to beat me up was a hanger, right? And my mom has a very strong anger. She cannot manage her anger, right? And the fact that she sees that how stubborn I am about my ex, um, there was that day where she just cornered me into the closet and just um, beat me. You know, it's been close to it's been more than 8 years, right? But I still remember that moment where she would just beat me just to get that, that obsession about my ex out of my mind, right? Like she was so angry that she couldn't bring her daughter back. Like, why is she so obsessed with this guy? He's not good for her. But her way of trying to, like, get me into senses was, maybe if I beat her and fear her, make her fearful, then she will let it go, right? So it was that, and then on top of that, my dad never raised his hand on me. Never did, never hurt me, right? And because obviously I was always his princess. He always says that, right? So even for him to pick up the hanger and start hurting me, because he was angry too that, like, my daughter is going to this wrong path and I need to beat her out of it, right? So it it's in the culture, though, that the way that unfortunately I studied this, I researched about it, is that why is there so much violence towards children, right? Even to the point where I went to go visit my parents today, right? It's been more than 8, 9 years now. I still feel that fear that um they could pretty much lash out and start beating me, right? Or telling me that I need to come back home, right? So I always have that fear back of my head that, if it doesn't go their way, they're going to resort to violence, right? To kind of get that form of control. Throughout childhood, for me, for my brothers, the way that they would parent is that I'm going to beat my child, so I'm going to put fear in them, right? I'm going to be able to control them and show them who is in the right, right? And as parents, we have that difficult responsibility that we want to keep our children in the right direction, put them on the right path, keep them safe, right? Protected. But if you ask me here, violence is not the answer to it, right? And that extreme violence is not, right? My mom used to use a rolling pin, but mostly afterwards started using hangers, right? Because hangers had a less impression on your body as opposed to other methods of hurting, right? Especially when we have to go to school the next day, right? If I didn't do my homework or if I did something wrong, she'll pick up the hanger and hit us multiple times, right? And then the next day we go to school like nothing happened, right? We'll come for dinner, we'll sit down, we won't even talk, and then a few days later, it's nothing, right? But I've seen that anger that my mom had throughout childhood, it's like that's not normal. That's not normal, right? I understand that we have to reprimand our children. Even in the Bible, it says that, we parents have this duty that they need to make sure that their children are going through the right direction, right? Give them the knowledge that they need. But that form of anger that my mom had, it's just not normal, because when she's beating me up, when she's beating my brothers up, you can just see the anger in her, right? Because she's reacting in the moment, never, stopping, having a clear mind, and then approaching. And so I grew up with that childhood where I needed to suppress what my feelings are, even to the point where I was secretly talking to my ex. Like, I did not have the trust or felt safe to approach my parents and tell them that I'm talking to this guy, right? Because I knew exactly what was going to happen, and that's exactly what happened, right? As soon as she found out, she started to beat me, she started to, swear and, call me all sorts of things, to the point she even said, like, I'm a whore, like, why are you in love with someone? Or, like, you shouldn't even be thinking about these, like, you want to go and have sex with this guy. Like, she was saying whatever she could, right, just to, obviously she's angry, right, that she's saying all this, but very insulting, very abusive, right? And I look at it that, this is not someone who I want to be, you know this is not someone who I want to be like when I grow up, when I have my own child, right? I cannot be going in that path. So of course, with all that beating, days of beating, I couldn't even go to university, right? They kind of put me as house arrest, you can say, where I couldn't go to school. They confiscated my phone, my laptop, and said, like, I'm not going to university anymore, and I'm gonna stay home, right? In front of their eyes, because I did a crime by falling in love with someone in the family. And so eventually my ex found out what was going on, or he didn't hear from me for days. He got worried. He was able to get an uncle in London to contact the police, London, UK police, to contact the police in Canada, in the local area. Police came, right? My mom thought I called the police, but I didn't have a phone. I didn't have nothing. Mind you, I've tried to call the police before too, right? When I saw that they were how they were trying to hurt me, trying to beat me up, like keeping me in house arrest, right? Police, the police finally came. Of course, the two times that I called the police before my ex did, my dad said there's nothing wrong, everything is fine, right? And I, of course, couldn't say anything to the police because I don't want my parents to get in trouble, right? I just want my parents to realize that what they're doing is wrong. And so I, of course, said, yeah, everything is fine, this is on me. I thought I was threatened, but no, I'm not. They're my parents, right? So I had that fear that I know what my parents are doing is wrong, but I don't want them to be in trouble. I also have an autistic brother. They need to be there for my autistic brother. When the London police contacted the police, someone in Canada, right? Of course, the police came that day, and they said to my parents and myself, right? They came knocking. My mom thought again I called the police, and I said I didn't. but I have a feeling my ex probably did because he hasn't heard from me from days and he's concerned. Um, of course, when the police came, they said that pretty much explained it that how they were contacted, and it was a lady policewoman, and she looked at me with sincerity and she said that everything that I'm saying to you is this true, and it breaks my heart when I said yes, yes. Of course, the police said to my parents that your daughter is over 18. You can't control her like this. You can't keep her like a prison in the house and beat her up. Um, you have to let it go. You either respect the decision, right, or she can leave this place. Because at this point, I wanted to leave my parents. I wanted to leave my parents' home. I wanted to leave everything behind because I genuinely felt my life was in danger as I saw my parents were getting more and more aggressive and upset that I did this crime, right, in their eyes. I genuinely felt I was definitely in danger. So that was the last day, right? Because my mom ultimately said, leave the house. We don't want you here. I still want to talk to them to kind of get this sorted. Even my dad said that, like, if you just waited 6 months, we would have got you married, right? What I was concerned about at the time is that, yeah, they'll buy time for 6 months, but they'll make up some excuse. And especially with everything that's happening and how angry they were, it was very doubtful that they would even, go by their word that they said that they'll get me married 6 months later. So my mom just said, pack a luggage, take whatever luggage we have downstairs, and pack your clothes and just leave. We don't want to see you ever again. Yeah. And I did. In silence, I went to go get a luggage, put all my clothes in. My dad could not look at me in the eye. He was very disappointed. My mom just continued on her day. And then I just took my essentials. I took the Quran with me, my own Quran, put it in my bag, and I just left. Now, while I was leaving, I didn't see my parents near the window or looking at me or nothing. But this was in um, February 1st of 2017, really, when I left, and that's when my ex made some arrangements with his uncle in London to send me some money. I got my visa to go to Bangladesh, and his uncle arranged my flight. I had to stay overnight in a hotel before I could um, go to Ottawa to get my visa to travel to Bangladesh, right? And but my parents didn't call me on my phone, didn't say anything. I felt very alone. Even though I had my ex with me, he was always reassuring me. He said everything's gonna be fine when we get you here. We're gonna get married, and we'll start life fresh together. So I felt comforted that he was there, but I still felt very alone, right? But throughout this whole time, during this difficult time, not once did I think about Allah. Now I felt very alone, deserted. That what's Allah gonna do for me? Like I come from a household, a religion where women are suppressed, and again, only love for my Muslim brothers and sisters here. They will have a different view about this, but I come from a household where throughout childhood there's this sense of control that parents need to have on their children, and they will use religion as a way to control them, right? I barely see my mom praying or but she's always going to say that you need to pray 5 times, you need to read the Quran, fast, and that way you'll secure a place in heaven, right? But throughout this ordeal, like I've not seen, even through this challenge, I've not seen my mom praying, my dad praying, or talking about Allah. And even for me, throughout this whole turmoil, I didn't even think about like Allah's gonna protect me. Like I didn't feel a sense that things will get better, like things will change, or I will see better days. I didn't feel that way. I felt completely alone, completely lost, and I just didn't know what to do. And I'm like, I'm just gonna leave it in Allah's hands. But that too, I didn't have trust. I'll be honest, I didn't have trust. All I knew is that I made my parents upset and sad, and I did not, I'm definitely not looking favorable in Allah's eyes. So anyways, once I got my visa, I booked a ticket. My uncle booked the ticket for about good 4 months, and my trip was to Bangladesh, right? But throughout that journey, I was still feeling very anguished, still feeling very like unsettled, right? Like this is not the right way to do it. If I wanted to get married, I wanted my parents' blessing here. But again, it was still more of like, um, we'll just let it go. It was more of a rebellious streak to it. Ultimately, I got to Bangladesh, and my ex and I got married religiously first, in the Islamic context, and then 2 days later, we had a reception. But again, there was this danger because my parents, my side of the family, knew what was going on, and my ex was concerned that my side of the family will try to do something to avoid the marriage, right? And it did turn out like that, because on the day of our reception, my side of the family, seems like my parents had called the local police in Bangladesh, and I had to carry my birth certificate, all my legal documents with me, even at my reception, to show that, like I'm in my sound mind making this decision, right? But again, everything was so washed. When I saw my ex for the first time, when in the airport when we got married, or before we were about to get married religiously, um, I I was very excited to see him, right? Because at the end of the day, I felt like I did all this for my ex, right? I didn't only do it for myself, but I did it for him, for his family. And I felt that, if my parents have abandoned me, I have at least a new family that will be that support for me. So at that point, it was more like, I need to keep this man happy. I need to keep his family happy, and this is my new family. That's where I ended up with. But again, I still felt that my ex was my top priority. He means the most to me. But when it came to, you know, praying to Allah, or even talking about him, I was staying with his mom, right? He stays with his mom. His dad is working illegally in London, right? There is this, I guess you can say, a loophole in the UK's immigration and working status, where like if you come on a working visa, right, and your visa expires, they can still, stay secretly with their family, work privately, and get paid with cash under the table, and you'll be fine. So his dad was doing that for like good 20 years, 20 plus years, something like that, where he was working secretly just so that he can provide his family. Because life in Bangladesh is difficult. And that's one of the things that my dad had mentioned to me before I left, was that, his family is not good. They're very corrupted, and they will, his dad himself is actually still working in London illegally when he should not be even in the country after his visa had expired. But I didn't look at it that way. I was looking at more like he's trying to provide for his family, right? It's the living conditions in Bangladesh is not easy, so he's doing his best he could, right? But I'm gonna talk about it in my next video that I noticed that maybe it wasn't the best decision I made, right? But when I look back at it now, I'm like, this is my journey, right? I would have been still stuck and suppressed in, even when I didn't truly believe that Islam was for me, I would have still been stuck had I not gone through this journey, had I not gone through these challenges to get to where I am. So even when I look back at the memory and I see how painful it was, I'm also thinking that, this is my way that Yeshua has provided to me, right? I have to go through these challenges to get out of that household and be able to embrace who I am now as a 7-day Adventist, see the truth for myself. So when I look back, yes, there was a lot of challenges, a lot of turmoil, a lot of pain, right? And it's not intended, right? It's not intended, but this is the journey that Yeshua took me through to get to where I am. So I want to thank you all for watching this video. I'll continue talking about in my next video my life in Bangladesh and how that has shaped and further reinforced that being a Muslim is not what I'm supposed to be. Thank you so much, and I hope you all continue to have a very blessed Sabbath. Till next time.